used mostly rhythm machines, drum machines to make the recording. And a few of the tracks sounded a little sterile because of that. And although it was very well programmed, really all I did on that record was just a few tracks. I played hand drums and electronic drums, Simmons drums and stuff like that, and Too Late for Goodbyes. And just the only drum track I played was on Jesse. That was sent in.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
What was it like having Linda around? Was she a help or a hindrance? And did you ever try to teach her some rhythm?
What was it like having Linda around? Was she... was she a helper?
Well, I think something that I say a lot about Linda is that she's a really wonderful person, despite what a lot of people think and say. And there's been a lot of misguided accusations against her. I mean, there's a few unfortunate tapes, which maybe some of you heard. So she, on her own admittance, is not, by any stretch of the imagination, a great musician. Paul likes to have her there all the time. It's his doing. She said to me on many occasions she wished she didn't have to be there. And as part of the question about, I loved having her about. We got on really well. We still do. I think she's a very great person. I suspect that were it not for her influence, Paul might not be here. I'm serious about that. I think he was leading a very crazy lifestyle at the time they came together. I think she completely grounded him, and I think that's just a wonderful thing.
Yes, sir.
What was the breakup of Wings like, and what point did that happen? How soon after the album, Back to the A?
What was the breakup of Wings like? Probably right after the Japan tour, right?
Yeah, it was in actuality about 2 years after we'd recorded or made the recording. There's always a time delay between the release and the work. So the breakup for me was sort of inevitable. I mean, after we went to Japan, that was, I believe, supposed to be the start of a world tour that hadn't been announced. It was typical of Paul to do that. He would set 11 shows, and on the strength of their success or non-success, would tell everybody to take a break for a few weeks and set up a major touring schedule, which he was able to do at that time because of the demand for the group. So the breakup, for me, it was annoying because I read about it in the London Evening Standard before anybody contacted me, which was a bit of a shock, But Paul had been talking about working with George Martin again. We'd already started rehearsals for the Tug of War record, but George Martin felt that he didn't want to be confined to working with the group. He wanted to work with Paul, but he wanted to be free to be able to call in other musicians if he wanted to. And that was really the demise of the band at that point.
Martin called a shot to break up Wings?
I suspect that he was used a little bit by Paul to soften the blow to us. Paul, for obvious reasons, I've called him on it plenty of times. He finds it very difficult to be straightforward on a subject like that. He felt that if he had called me and said, look, it's nothing personal, I just don't want the band to go anymore, it's like it would have shattered my life. And actually it would have made it a little bit easier, because I spent 6 months drawing salary wondering what on earth was going on, and it would have been much clearer for me, and I'd have been freer to pursue other things if he had just released me directly earlier. But I think he really feels that it would upset people to the point of just destroying their lives if he personally fired somebody. I really think, and I've said to him, you really shouldn't think like that. It's just if I was in your position, I'd want to do this. I'd just want to work with whoever I wanted to. With all your money, you got me playing drums. You could afford Steve Gadd. Yeah, and I actually said that to him one day, and I think he hired him the following week.
Okay. Yes, sir.
During your tours with Wings, was there any question of Six Siders being special or memorable?
During your tour with Wings, anything special about it?
Yeah. Just to qualify the point, I did not do the Wings Over America tour. I joined the band after Joe English. I actually only played a total of 23 shows with Wings, all of which were in the UK. I think actually, well, Campuchia was an event, and it was time-consuming, and it there were many things about that were hard to deal with. But my favourite concert was of the few that we played was actually in Glasgow, and it was it was performed on the day that England and Scotland played in the soccer final. So the result actually came on during the result of the game was during our performance, and Paul decided that he was going to announce the winners of the match by wearing a significant flag, being wrapped in it, and they would unveil him. And of course we're in Glasgow on this magnificent stage with the Campbelltown Pipe Band and everybody, and Scotland thankfully won.
Okay, next, yes, sir.
What was one of your favorite songs?
What was one of your favorite songs from Wings?
Still Daytime, Nighttime Suffering.
Yeah.
I don't. There's a very honest thing about that song. It's it's like a country tune actually. That's what it is. You know, I've been spending the last 4 years concentrating on folk, jazz, blues, and traditional musics, and country music, of course. And one of the things that somebody I admire very much in country music pointed out, that you cannot tell a lie in country music. You can see straight through it. And the very best country music is as honest as it gets. And I think that is, Daytime, Nighttime Suffering is the equivalent in pop music of that. It's a very heartfelt song.
Yes, please. Yeah, Stan. The question was, were you ever around when Paul was writing songs?
Yeah, because a lot of the time they were written like as I mean, Spin It On, for example, was written as we played it. It really wasn't a song. It was 2 notes, and you know, it was just, what is this? You know, and it's like, down, 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 down. I'm going, come on, you know. And so that was really, if you want, it was a collaboration and a cause and effect. But some of his songs are completely mapped out, you know, orchestrated. He hears multiple lines, as you know, and those things it's obvious what you have to do. And then other tunes he comes up with a very, very skeletal, and you fill in the details, you know.
Yes, sir.
Paul McCartney plays a lot of instruments and plays drums. Did you ever tell you how to play drums, or did you trust your judgment?
Paul McCartney plays a lot of instruments. He plays drums. Did he ever give you direction or show you anything, or?
Well, no, because he does play drums and he has a great feel for it, because I mean, you can hear from his bass playing where his emotion lies, and he approaches it the same way with drums. Although some of the things he wants to play sort of like baffle him, and he can't actually physically do it. He just doesn't have the chops to do that. So a lot of the time on the recording, he'll play one part and then another part, and make, you know, Band on the Run was recorded very bits and pieces, and drum fills were done separately, hi-hats were done separately, things like that. So I think he admired anybody that could do it all independently at the same time. So he didn't really question too much what I did at that time.
Yes, sir.
How did Paul, not to even read or write music, how did you communicate his ideas to the guitar players and everyone else in the band to get his actual ideas across?
The question is, how did Paul relate to his music without being able to write music?
He would very often play all of the parts himself to indicate exactly what he wanted. And then from that point, it was a performance perspective that would alter. But largely, if he knew what it was he wanted, he would play it on whatever instrument was applicable.
Was he open to suggestions from the other musicians?
Constantly, even if they were bad ones. Which actually I admired about him, you know, because he would give me the time to try any kind of like bizarre idea I might have, you know. One of the things that transpired from that, which I always thought was comical, was we decided that snare drums sounded really good in a toilet bowl, and I think most of the snare drums on the McCartney 2 record were recorded that way. I think that was definitely his idea. It wasn't mine. But
Yes, ma'am. She's asking if Paul was difficult to work with, and to give an example of that.
Well, only as much as only on one occasion can I remember where we tried fruitlessly to record a song all day, and it just, for whatever reason, everything it should work, but it just didn't. It sounded wrong, and we couldn't figure out why. And we kind of gave up at about midnight and went back to our respective hotels to get a phone call at 4 o'clock in the morning from Paul saying, "I know exactly what it is. I need everybody to come back." And at that point, we were all just on our way to bed. And that was the only time I can remember him being difficult. He was so adamant that he wanted us all to go back. As it happened, we didn't, because we couldn't find anybody sober enough to drive.
Are you still in touch with him?
Yeah, not as much as I used to be. You know, he's been fairly private the last couple of years, been very busy. So last time I actually saw each other was, I've seen him twice in 3 years. We met in the men's room in London for about 3 minutes, and an elevator in New York. So that's the extent of my contact over the last few years.
Yes.
What's the documentary on? Eric Clapton and Ringo Starr was supposed to do an album with Paul McCartney. I was wondering what happened to that.
You're asking about Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton and Ringo Starr.
Paul McCartney was supposed to do an album, or Ringo Starr and Eric Clapton was supposed to do an album.
Do you know anything about that?
I actually don't really know anything. Do you happen to know what year that was? Because 74? I mean, they're all friends, so it's conceivable. Obviously, it was conceivable. It was talked about, but I think a lot of things are talked about and nothing materializes. So, I mean, I remember being in Air Studios when both Ringo and Eric were there, so there might have been some conversation at that time about it, or that might just have led to speculation about the possibility. It's hard to say, but I don't really know anything directly about that.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. She asked what was the song he was referring to that took all night or he was frustrated with. You remember?
Yeah, it's a song called To You, which isn't actually on Back to the Egg, but is on the bootleg version. So, it's on what? Oh. No, then that's not what that's not the one I'm thinking of. Then there's something else. Cage. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you very much, Anne. I'm getting old, you know. That sells it. That's the one I was thinking of. Cage. It was called. Man, I'm sorry. I'll refer to you if there's anything else I can't remember. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
What was your best recollection of the video you made, Paul?
Best video you made with Paul?
Most of with the exception of Good Night Tonight, all the other videos were made during the course of a week at Lynn Castle, which were part of the Back to the Egg record was recorded. The promo films were from there. That week was hysterical. That's all I can say. That was one of the funniest, one of the best weeks of my life. It was, just being like in filming one of the in a field where we destroyed half the crop by rolling around and getting busted by the farmer and having to give him a check before we could leave the field for the damage and stuff. I mean, just funny things, and then dressing up and being on the beach for Baby's Request in the army uniforms. It was very believable because we were actually on the edge of an old army camp, so there was a barbed wire still there. You know, it's and then the snow in. The snow in the Winter Rose video is actually shaving foam, or a kind of shaving foam, which we were told very explicitly would not affect the grass. However, when they washed it away, the grass was very, very strange colour. It was almost sort of a bluish yellow colour, and the people at home at the castle, the Margraves, were just horrified. So, and it was just a great party. It was just a big party week. It was a lot of fun.